Okay. Good morning, everyone. Do you hear me well? Is it fine for everyone? Great. So good morning. My name is Rita Hinak and I work at the European Personal Selection Office at EPSO. And we are basically the place where it all starts if you would like to work at the European institutions. I will get into a little bit later. So a few words about myself. I started in communications at the European Commission about 12 years ago. I did different jobs there, and about 9 years, it's quite a long time, I'm working on a network of universities. Basically, LSE is also part of it. We have a student ambassador at those universities. It's about 170 in Europe. And we are giving advice to students about how to start a career at the institutions. So what does that mean, this career at the institutions? I prepared a small video for you. It's, I'll get there in a second, sorry.
My job is very, very challenging.
Every day you're facing new issues, you're facing new topics.
The working environment that we're in really is unique because of its diversity.
And you actually get to work with all those people that are coming from different countries.
And it's so interesting just to be in this multicultural environment.
You know you're doing an important job, and you're doing a job that tries to make the world a better place.
Actually, how many people can say that what they do
Impacts the lives of more than 500 million people.
You're really where the decisions are being taken.
There's a long list of things.
Protecting the environment, helping create jobs.
Supporting research and innovation.
Fighting poverty and promoting equal opportunities.
I was both amazed and surprised to see
The vast array of different jobs that are actually on offer.
I work with lawyers, prosecutors, translators, policy officers.
economists, scientists.
There's such a great offer in terms of training that you are strongly encouraged.
To learn and grow throughout your career.
I could describe my colleagues as very professional.
They are very committed.
They are also having a lot of fun.
I think that we do make a difference in the lives of not only Europeans, but globally speaking.
It's the opportunity of a lifetime.
Oh, it's okay. Shall I do this one again?
I will not move.
Okay.
Okay. So I hope you're interested. Exactly. So basically, if you would like to start your career at the European institutions and follow the examples of the colleagues who just spoke with you, you have to start at EPSO. We are selecting for the European Parliament, the Commission, the Council, the Economic and Social Committee, Committee of Regions, the institutions in Strasbourg, the Ombudsman, for example, Court of Justice, Court of Auditors in Luxembourg, of course. There's a small one at the corner which you might not know. That's the European Data Protection Supervisor. And in the middle, the big one, which is we are always asked, especially if we are talking here in international environment. It's Sorry, is there a mic? Sir, yes. I will get closer to it. Is it better now? Yeah. Okay. So it's in the middle, European External Action Service. So they are also under the framework. The question might come, because I had it already this morning with some of the students at our stand. The European Central Bank is not yet under the framework contract. It's going to come maybe, but at the moment, if you would like to work at the central bank, you have to apply directly to them. But for all these institutions, it's us. So centrally, you can start with us. We are looking for all different profiles. For years, we had kind of the impression that people think that it's only for lawyers and economists. It's not true at all. So we are looking for people in external relations, in communications, in ICT, audits. We are looking for lots of linguists, translators, interpreters. There is a big melting pot which is called the European Public Administration. So European Public Administration, they are all the people like me who are working with, let's say, framework contracts, projects, programs of the institutions. Very important to know that I will get into that more in detail, but as for the diplomas, I think we are very liberal in the sense of if you are good in translation, we don't ask for a translation degree. You have to prove that you are good in translation. Of course, it depends all the time a bit on the competition, but you can think a bit further. For example, just to give you a good example for that, I know someone who is working on sustainable energies, and he studied philosophy. So you can really go from one job to another, and this is the main message I would like to leave it with you today: that you are not applying for a job, you are applying for a career, because you are going from one place to another, from one institution to another. We have two main grades, actually, the assistants and the administrators. But you have to keep in mind, because as I can look around, you're all very young. Probably you just finished your master's, or you are in your master's studies. Look for the 85 categories. So that's really our code for young graduates who have not yet more than 6 years professional experience. So 85. What we are looking for EU citizens, and I think now we have to face the question: is someone here from the UK? I mean, with UK citizenship only? Yes. Okay. No, it's really important. So basically, right now, I remember that that night after the referendum, where my director called and he said that you should put something on the website, and every 2 months it's going to, according to the negotiations, it's going to be updated, and it has never been updated because there's, we don't know what to say. So you can apply to the competitions. At this point of time, we can't guarantee anything about recruitment because we just don't have any timelines. But everyone from these 28 member states can apply to the competitions, but you have to have the EU citizenship. So third countries, candidate countries can't apply, unfortunately. You have to be multilingual. It means you have to speak, I mean, now that we talked about that you are all mostly not from the UK, I think that won't be a problem. So you have to have 2 languages. It used to be second language, English, French, or German, but it's not anymore. So you can put in whatever language you want as your second language. And we will identify the 5 most used languages, and we will organize the assessment centers in those languages. Just to give you an example, in the last 2 years it has been second language, English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, and I think it's going to stay like that because this is what people, according to our statistics, speak most. Very importantly, but I mean, being on LSE, I think I don't have to go into that in very much in detail, is you have to enjoy working in multicultural environment, in multicultural teams. Literally, there are people all the time with you from 27 other member states, and it's very, very enriching. I have been working a bit also on employer value propositions, and then we were asking around people who are already working at the institutions what they value most, and basically I loved to see that the most important for them was being in multicultural teams, being in multicultural environments. So it's a very unique boost, I think, which everyone appreciates a lot. What we offer is this international working environment, of course. Okay, Brussels is not London in the sense of being international, but there are lots of international organizations. So it's not only the EU, there is also NATO headquarters, there is also the SWIFT headquarters, financial offices. So it's, of course, not this scale, but you can really meet people from all over the world on a daily basis. We promise an interesting and challenging work, and this is really, really important for us, that we have new people, young graduates joining us, because we all know the challenges Europe is facing at this moment with Brexit, with environment problem, with migration. So we really look for the fresh pair of eyes who can give us some new ideas and who can work with us to solve all these issues. We promise that you will be able to shape Europe. As the colleague said, just at the beginning, it's very, very challenging, but at the same time, you have really this unique opportunity of making the life better of 500 million people. Travel, depending on how much you would like to travel, there are jobs where you travel constantly. There are jobs where you travel, for example, in my, like once a month maybe, and there are jobs where you don't travel. So it really depends on your life, work-life situation. But if you are willing to travel and if you would like to, there's plenty of jobs you can have during your career where you can not only travel in Europe, let's say, but also worldwide. Okay. What we offer, it's my favorite one is at the very beginning is training courses. Now that you are probably somewhat kind of saying, because I remember from my own university years at the end that, okay, not anymore. I mean, now I do that and then it's over. But after a couple of years, you will understand that basically you have to do it lifelong. So they really encourage you to study, to continue your studies. First of all, it's very important, languages. For your first promotion, they will ask you to prove that you are capable to work in 3 languages. So you for to be selected, it's enough to have 2. But once you are promoted for the first time, it's about 3 years after you have started. You have to prove that you are capable to work in a 3rd language. The 3rd language learning, it's in working hours, which I think is very unique and fantastic. They have very, very good courses twice a week. There's plenty of skills and competency courses. And as I said, because you are going from one job to another, they support you in that one very well as well. So if you, for example, work at, I don't know, DG Home on migration issues, but then a couple of years later you see that you would like to work in finances and you want to go to the General Directorate of Taxation, they will give you the appropriate training to that. So I think it's very, very unique. It's really this lifetime of different jobs. There is work-life balance. There are core hours where you have to be at work, where they organize the meetings, and otherwise you can really freely see if you are more a morning person or afternoon person, something like that. There are lots of well-being initiatives. It's not yet Google, but we are working on it. We have, I will get to the pay and salaries packages. We offer pension, family allowances. If later on that will be a question for you, they are European schools, so children can learn in their own, in the language of the family, basically. So we offer that in 24 different sections, different language sections. About the salaries, as I said, you have to look for the 85 one, so it's about 4,700 euros. Very often we are basically quoted in press about that we are not paying taxes. Yes, we do. But as you are recruited from not a third country, but from a different country, so not from Belgium, you get an expatriation allowance, and the expatriation allowance is basically coming up more or less for the taxes. So this 4,700, you will get about 4,500 euros a month. So I hope you are still interested. Okay, so this is our website where it all starts. You have a job opportunities. I don't know if you can see it from the back. A job opportunities button where you have basically a list of opportunities you can apply at this moment. Before you apply, we ask you to sit self-selection and self-evaluation tests. So those are compulsory tests, but I hope I'm not recorded here. We will never look at the results. It's very important for you actually to have a feedback if you are really made for that job. So the questions they are going to ask you is that, do you know that this is a hierarchical organization of 25,000 people, chain of command, whatever. So they want to see that you really understand what you are doing. Do you know that this job is in Brussels or Luxembourg or Strasbourg and you will live the life of an expat? Is it clear to you? What does that mean? So basically those are the questions they are asking, and I really suggest you to fill it in very sincerely, just to see if it's a real fit for you. That's a self-evaluation, that's a self-selection test. It gives you an idea how well you are doing in the tests later, so in the different stages, mostly concentrated on the pre-selection tests. So again, both compulsory, no one is looking at the results, make it as good as you can because it gives you very valuable feedback. So once you have done it at your own computer, you will be invited to the pre-selection test. The pre-selection tests take place worldwide. You can't escape EPSO. If you are in New York, Tel Aviv, Sydney, we have test centers everywhere, so it's a worldwide contract. You can do it here in London, of course, or in your home countries. You can choose a date when you would like to do it. You can do it mornings, evenings, afternoons, so it's basically, we would like to include as many people as possible. We invite everyone to see this pre-selection test, and then the best ones will be invited to the E3 exercise. The best ones in E3 exercise will be invited to the assessment center, and then you get to the list of successful candidates. So it sounds a bit longish, but what I have to tell you about it, I did some benchmarking with other international organizations. It's very transparent, so you know exactly where you are, how many points you have, what's the next step, when is this next step coming up. So I think that's really helpful, and it guides you through the way. I will show you a couple of examples of the tests we are using. So the first test, as I said, is the worldwide computer-based test. We have 4 different type of tests there. The verbal reasoning, abstract reasoning, numerical reasoning, and the situational judgment. This is what it is at the moment, so you know it can change a bit. For example, in a couple of years we didn't have the situational judgment, then it came back again. So it's always a discussion with the institutions, what exactly they want to have. But this is basically what I'm showing you today is the mostly used model of testing. Those tests are in your first language. Now about the choice of languages. So if you are wondering, as you are studying on LSE, I guess your level of English is much better than mine. My first language is Hungarian, the second is German, the third is English, fourth is French. So if you're wondering about it, how you would choose the languages, it's very important not to spend too much time on that. I mean, don't be too strategic about it. We have seen it a couple of times that people, for example, I was there in one assessment center group where they had the group discussion, and I think it was kind of this thinking about and struggling about it. So a couple of people have chosen, they were native Germans, you could see directly, this as the second language because they wanted to make sure that they do the assessment center in the native language. But very important, this whole thing is not about languages. You have to be able to understand it, you have to be able to present, you have to be able to do the test, but no one is looking at your grammar or syntax or anything like that, vocabulary. It's really just about, are you able to work in that language? So again, these are the 4 tests, and you have to do the first 3, verbal, numerical, and reason in your first language, and situational judgment in the second language. I have a couple of examples for you. I guess some of you have seen such tests already. So that's an example for verbal reasoning. Psychologists always suggest that you first read the question, then you read the answers, and then you read the text. Now why I'm telling you is that it's just to give you a little bit of idea that the tests as such are not very difficult, so we can all do it. The only thing where it gets tricky is it's on time and it's on a screen, so you don't have a piece of paper where you can scribble around. So this is something where you need to practice a little bit. You have to Google verbal reasoning tests, and then you have to do it really on the computer because it's a different. I didn't really. Sorry for. I think the group is a bit too big to introduce yourself, but in a couple of countries at universities they use computer tests for exams also at universities, but it's not very common. So you have to get familiar with that. Right. This is numerical reasoning. Again, it's not a difficult question, but you really have to concentrate on the question first. It's about the working population, the percentage of Sweden's total population. So you have to make sure that you are not calculating anything else, only Sweden, and then they are basically 2 columns in there which are not relevant at all. So again, getting back to the first example, you have to see the question and you have to make sure that you only do the calculations necessary, because you don't have more than 2 minutes time for each question for the numerical reasoning and 1 minute for the verbal reasoning. Okay, and that's abstract reasoning. If you ever applied or had a look at GMAT books for applications to MBAs, for example, You have plenty of examples of abstract reasoning. The question is always, what's the next one? Can I ask you if you have any guesses? So I give you a little bit of time just to look at it. Very nice. Very nice and very fast, because basically you just said it after 20 seconds, let's say. So you have approximately 1 minute for each question like that. Again, what I heard from psychologists in our organizations, they say that there is not a single brain who would be as good as in verbal than in numerical as in abstract. So you will see when you start practicing, or when you do it the first time, you will have some which are easier for you. You will have others which are more difficult for you, and it's perfectly fine. So it's really taken in account that no one can be, you know, equally good in all of them. Situational judgment. It's always a work-related situation. For example, you have a new job, and you have to write a briefing for the commissioner. Both your director and your head of unit are not in the office, and someone is calling from high-level political group for the commissioner's office that you have to send out the briefing, and it hasn't been yet signed by your hierarchy. What do you do? Do you give the briefing or not? So there is no right or wrong question. They are looking for a specific profile which they try to find with this type of test. Again, there are a couple of examples on our website. There is a so-called MOOC. It's a massive online course where we put some tests. You will see there. It's worth to get familiar with it, but it's not a huge preparation needed, let's say, for that one. Okay, so that was pre-selection. It's all on computer, as I said. It's worldwide. Afterwards, those ones who have the highest scores in abstract and situational judgment and have the pass mark, which is 50% for the other pre-selections. So abstract and situational, you have to be amongst the highest. We take 10 times as many people as it's needed at the end and invite to each exercise. To give you an example, if we are looking for 100 young graduates as 85 grades in that year, we will invite 1,000 people to the E3 exercise. The E3 exercise, it's 15 to 20 questions, depends on the competition, and they are assessing your team working abilities, how well you are prioritizing, how good you are in delivering quality and results, and how well you are analyzing and solving problems. This is all in language 2. And I guess you all did already internships. So basically it looks like an inbox. If you get into work in the morning and then you see lots of pieces of information, and then you have to gather it together, to put it together and see what you would do first, second, or after. I have a question to you, John. Would it be possible to have that presentation available to interested? They do it after the event. Okay, so yes, and there's plenty of notes from me also on how to solve them. Like tips and tricks. So it will be available, and you can have it with my notes, of course. So you have afterwards a question, is how you deal with that problem, how you deal with the situation, and then you have to find again the right answer. Okay, so this was all on computer, this was all in your member state, and then if you are amongst the best ones, you have the highest marks, total marks in the E3 exercise, you will be invited to the assessment center, and the assessment center is in Brussels, in the building I'm working, so I hope you will pass by and say hello if you're there. It's we are getting back again to the example. If we are looking for 100 people, we will invite 200 to the assessment center. So the chances are basically quite good that you will be selected if you made it to the assessment center. And the assessment center is a classical one, I think, what you have probably already done for other organizations or private sector. So we have a case study, a group exercise, a structured interview, an oral presentation, and a motivational interview. It's all in language 2. and we are assessing 8 competencies. I found, comparing it again with other assessment centers, very transparent in a way of they are telling you exactly what they are assessing, in which part of the assessment center, and there is nothing else. So it's extremely structured because we are working with a huge number of candidates to make it really objective. We have an assessment center guide where they describe it. We have a video on the website again, so if you make it to the assessment center, it's worth to get a bit familiar with this type of tests. So now, if you are from, I guess you're from European member states. Basically over the half of the member states are providing training. So let's say if you are Danish and you make it to the assessment center, you should contact in Denmark, it's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is providing you training. EPSO, I mean, we can't, of course, because of equal opportunities and everyone has to have the same chances. But the member states are very interested to put as many people as they can from their own countries in the institutions. So they provide assessment center trainings. I worked quite close with the Germans, and they have amazing trainings, the Danes, the Swedes. So you have to look at it. We have a link on our website where you can contact these member states. And they also send you an email. I mean, if it all works out with everything around GDPR, we help them to contact the people so they can offer that service to you. So, right, I don't want to show that because, well, it's also on the website. It shows how an assessment center day goes, but I really want to listen to your questions rather. And once you are successful in all those steps, the institutions will call you, they will invite you to a job interview, and you will be recruited. And now it really comes in because I think it's in your head already, the question of, okay, so I would like to work in international relations, or I would like to work in biochemistry, or I'm a taxation expert. So how can I make sure that I get a job there? So the feedback is basically everyone goes to this melting point, let's say, so everyone is going to be tested for the same things. At the end, it really makes a difference what you have on your CV, what's your motivation, where you would like to work, and then they try to do a job match. If they offer you something and you say, okay, this is not quite what I want, you have the possibility, 2 possibilities basically. You can say, okay, I will do it. After 2 years, I go to Brussels. I will start a job. I will see how it works. I will network. I will learn the most I can from the institutions, about the institutions, and then I change jobs because of the internal mobility. Or what you can say that, no, it's really not my piece of cake, and then you stay on the reserve list and then you wait for the next job offers. So both are possible. You have to see it a bit. So most of my colleagues actually suggest that you take the job what they offer you, and then you work your way around where you want to be. But I think if it's really not your stuff, then don't do it. But usually we have, of course, feedback both from candidates and the recruiting institutions. It's about 95% of success rate. So about 95% is telling us that it's the right job match. So it works out at the end. Okay, so what's upcoming is right now we are looking for conference operators. As of next week, we are looking for loads of ICT profiles, high-performance computing, quantum technologies, whatever. There will be an international cooperation, which I think it might be interesting for you, published most probably on the 5th of December. I can't tell you yet a lot about the profile as such because it's not out yet, so colleagues are still working on it, on the requirements and so on. But you have to have 6 years of professional experience in international cooperation and aid management to non-EU countries. So that's on the 5th of December, and then probably before Christmas we are going to publish the lawyer linguist competition for 5 languages: Danish, Greek, French, Croatian and Polish. Lawyer linguists are profiles basically who are lawyers, but they have the ability to carry out their work in 3 different languages. It's a bit cross-checking translations from legal point of view. So Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a question. It's written AD7 for
Yes.
the international cooperation.
Yes.
So is it suitable for?
It's this is 6 years professional experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I can kind of see that it should be very interesting here, but it requires 6 years of professional experience. So this is what we have by the end of the year, more or less. I mean, it can be always something else, but I would like to suggest you to keep an eye on the website or follow us on Facebook. We have a career ambassador, Naina. She's also on our stand, who is here at LSE, and she knows about all the competitions from. I mean, she's working with us on weekly basis. But if you just follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, you will find all the time new competitions. So it's worth to keep an eye on it. There will be, again, we are not recorded, right? So there will be lawyer profiles next year. It's really just in planning, so I can't tell much more about it. Probably there will be also a translation competition at the very beginning of the year. So there is still things coming up, but of course, you know, it's on demand. Whatever the institutions say as a demand, we publish. Okay, so everything I said so far, that was about permanent contracts, so a lifetime of different jobs at the European institutions, but there's also other staff working with us, and I want to talk about the contract agents a little bit. So they are mostly 3 years contracts. In a couple of institutions it can be prolonged. So you will find a huge long list about contracts we have at this moment. Those are, you will see, I think what could be interesting for you is the program and project management, political affairs, law, yeah, probably those ones, finance maybe. So you have to look out for function group, it's in the middle, function group 4. So make sure you apply to function group 4 because this corresponds to university level. Important here is that you can register for those, for this selection procedure at any time. So you go home tonight, it's Saturday, so on Monday, you register for this, and if your profile is interesting for one of the institutions, they are going to contact you and invite you for a test. So everyone can register at any time. You will be in a huge database. I have to tell you, it's a huge database. So at the moment, I think it's about between 80 and 90,000 people in the database. So it's a keyword search. Let's say if they are looking for someone who is who has, I don't know, a master's in political affairs, who has French as main language, who also speaks Spanish, and has not a lot of professional experience, they will get to your profile. So this is how the recruiting services are looking for people. And once they identified you in this huge database, they ask us to test you. So we will be in touch with you, and it's again a reasoning test, like verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, and the competency test. Getting back to that, if you are a professional in political affairs, they will test you in political affairs, and then they recruit you. So the idea behind is that it's much faster, because if you are looking for permanent posts, the selection procedure can take, as we invite everyone, and everyone will be tested, it can take a year, let's say. And for contract agents, it's possible to be recruited in a few months. So the idea is really that it's a faster turnover. The salaries, as I said, please check for FG, which is function group 4. It's less than for an official. It's about 3,400 euros, and the contracts are for 3 years, which I think is also not bad. Okay, I still have a couple of minutes. Are you interested in traineeships too? Yes, okay. Okay, so traineeships are handled by each institution separately. It means if you would like to work at the European Parliament, you have to apply to the traineeship office of the European Parliament directly. If you would like to work in the Ombudsman's office as a trainee or an intern, you have to apply there directly. The biggest traineeship provider, oh my God, in the world is the European Commission. So apparently we are hiring 1,800 trainees a year for 2 times 6 months traineeships. 1,300. So you have to know that it's not a typical internship in the sense of photocopying or coffee making or whatever it is. We always have a trainee, for example, in our team and I'm usually the advisor. And what I have to make sure right at the beginning that they get a job which they can finish from A till Z in this 5 months traineeship. So it's really about having their own projects, having the same responsibilities. So basically, she's doing right now the same job as I do. So so it's not something what you might know from other organizations. They are 5 months, 2 times a year. So you can start either in October and then you are working till February, or you can start in March and then you would finish in July. The selection criteria, as I said, for if you would like to work as a contract agent or as a permanent staff, you have to have the citizenship of one of the 28 member states. If you want to do a traineeship, you don't have to be an EU national. So 2% of all trainees can be from third countries. There is no age limit. If you decide you want to do it in the next term, it's fine. If you decide in 2 years, it's also good. The average age of a trainee, I think it's about 27 at the moment, so you can see they are really those ones. I had someone, he was from the UK, and he just finished, he was 21, but we had already 32-year-old, so it's everything in between. You need a bachelor degree, which you all have, as I understand, and then you have to speak 2 languages, where the second language has to be English, French, or German. So it's, but I think that's, as we are talking now English, it's also fine. The magic is here, you have to apply in time. So next time, the application period will be in January 2020. And there you apply for the traineeship starting in September 2020, October 2020, like 1st of October. So it's half year before, so it requires some type of planning, let's say. In average, there are 9,000, it could be a bit more applicants who are applying, and we have 900 places for trainees, which sounds a lot, but you have to know something. First of all, not everyone went to LSE, okay? So we have lots of tourists, like people who don't even have the basic requirements and they are applying, so it means they don't have a BA and they don't have the citizenship. Other than that, we are encouraging you to apply because there are national quotas. So there is a number, a quota from, let's say from Germany, there is a number of people who will be hired as a trainee from Poland. So you are not in competition with 9,000, you are only in competition with the people from your member state, which I think makes it already much better. And there's loads of people from third countries where, I mean, there's only 2% who can get a traineeship post there. So the chances are much better than it's actually it looks for the first view. So I encourage you to have a look on it in January 2020. I will do lots of advertisements for it. So again, if you follow us on social media, you will see it. Right, it's good. So I wanted to have 15 minutes. It's even a bit more. I'm happy to take your questions. Yes, please.
I would like to ask about traineeship. So what if you don't speak 2 languages? Is it like
You have to. And actually for the traineeship, so for us, if you are applying for a permanent job, you don't have to have any language certificate. We don't care about it. It's really, if your language is good enough, you're good enough. For the traineeship, they are asking for language certificates.
the level of speaking? I know
It's B2.
B2.
B2 for the traineeship, yeah.
What if,
2 of them.
so one last question.
Yes, of course.
Like, can I choose Spanish instead of like French or German as the
No.
second language? No, they have
No.
to be French or German.
Yes, for the traineeship, it has to be English, French, or German, the second one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Maybe just on that note, do these language certificates have to be still valid? Like, for example, TOEFL is only for 2 years, right?
It's a very tricky one. Okay, so you can prove it in many different ways, and well, I'm not working in traineeship office, so I'm not really an expert in that. You can prove it in many different ways. For example, if you are studying here, that counts as a language certificate because you are, yes, so for your English you are good. But actually, if, let's say, an Alliance Française thing would be valid after 2 years, I can't answer you the question. But, yeah. So we have to have a look at the website. Yes, please.
Just a quick question about the experienced hires. So for instance, if I had some experience in a certain field in the past,
Mm-hmm.
what is the equivalent, for instance, in assessing whether my experience
Yes. It depends on the job, of course. So if it's about getting back to that example, international cooperation, there's a selection board appointed with experts in international cooperation, and there's a so-called notice of competition, which is the legal background of every competition, and where they really list in detail which experience they accept or not, and then they go case by case, and they evaluate the experience. So this is how it works. Yes, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, I get a little bit confused because first there was the fourth step with the assessment center application.
Yes.
And then one is just to kind of get into the pool and then we choose the kind of specific job? Or
Okay, it's a very good question. Yes, it's very good that you got back to that. So basically you are in this pool of successful candidates. And then the institutions are offering you jobs at the same time, and it's a very good point. At the same time, you will get a link to all internal vacancies, so you can also apply actively. So everything which is around there, you can apply just like me, who is internal. At the same time, of course, institutions want to recruit as fast as they can, so some people don't even have the time to open the link, and they are already called for the interviews. Through the selection procedure, that's the most important, actually. Yes, yes, please.
Do member state quotas play any part in permanent staff choices?
No, no. This is it, and that's why. Well, maybe if we have the time, we can really go around to see from where you are. So we have problems in about 12 member states. Let's say that we don't attract enough people. Scandinavians, French, German, for example, Polish, Czech. We can't really give you an extra point because you are from those member states, but what we can do is we go a lot and we do much more marketing in those places just to attract more people. But so far there is no competition which would be based on citizenship or language, and there is no quota for permanent jobs at this moment. Yes, please. Yes, it's a great question. I was very interested myself actually, and I went into the data. I wanted to see how many people did it, who are actually recruited at the end, and it was half. So it means, I think where it really can be helpful that if you do a traineeship, you have already a network. So it's not that you are arriving to a foreign country where you don't know anyone, where you have no connection to anything. I think it helps people probably at the very first couple of weeks, months, let's say, to settle in because, you are going home in a way. But for the selection procedure or basically, I don't know, for the recruitment, it doesn't pay any advantage. Any more questions? Yes.
A very generic question, but I think it's an important one, about what makes an applicant stand out. So for instance, in this whole pool of applicants, you mentioned degree matters, for instance, from the UK, but on the other hand, is it number of languages? Is it, besides the tests that we're taking, and of course, as it was mentioned, highest scores, was it from abstract and situational?
Yes, exactly.
To put that aside, what makes a candidate special and more likely to be selected?
So basically, how should I put it very diplomatically? You don't need to stand out in a way because the selection procedure is, so you get your candidate number, no one will look at your CV during the whole process. It's really how well you are doing in the process. And this is because we want to be as objective as possible, that we really check your skills and competencies because the different let's say educational systems are really difficult to compare. Also with languages, someone, for example, living in Belgium, I have also a daughter, she's 5, she speaks 4 languages. It depends a bit on, so this we really want to avoid. We really concentrate on what we can objectively measure, and this is a selection procedure. So once you are on the reserve list, it gets really important what's on your CV. And at that point, I think it's really important that it's well written, it's contribution based. Means that if you, for example, would like to work on information society, that you know what Horizon 2020 is and you know exactly, so be as pragmatic as you can, that this part is very important for me. I'm very interested in whatever international cooperation. My dream is to work at the EES, and this I could do there. So, you know, make it contribution-based, put as little blah blah as possible, because they have lots to read. I think that stands out for sure. A well-written CV is very, very good. On the other hand, as you are already pre-selected, the pool of candidates who is pre-selected, who is already in the reserve list, they will be all hired. The idea behind is that they will all find a job match, because before we publish the selection procedure, the competition, we have an exact number from the institutions what they would like to hire. So they need, let's say, 5 lawyers. We will not look for 6. So everyone will actually get one. But now getting to the traineeship part, for the traineeship, that's very important. So again, make it sure that it's contribution-based. I have been volunteered to be in this pre-selection committee for the traineeship office. It's really manual work. So I mean, we are sitting there and reading CVs, and it's a lot of cliches still. So make sure that you're really writing about what you want to do, what you can do, and how you want to put it in action. That you show, and there it's really important. If you have more languages than 2, it gives you an extra point. If you have a higher degree than a BA, it gives you an extra point. If you have done anything related to the European Union, some project work or another internship, put it there, because it all counts. The only thing is that at some point they will ask for proofs, so make sure that you have some certification or reference letter or something like that from that. So that's important for the traineeship, right? Okay. Any more questions? Yes, please. Yes. Mm-hmm. No, one foreign language. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So for permanent post, the first language can be whatever European language, and the second language has to be, it can be anything, but it's usually English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish, because we take the 5 most spoken ones. But we are getting to the same result every year. We just ask the candidates around what are your language skills, and we get there. And for the traineeship, the second one has to be English, French, or German. And it has to be in B2 level. Yes, please.
During those permanent roles, during those 3 steps of test, do they sum up in the end? Or is it like...
Oh, no. No, it's actually, they are all the different. So for the first, only those ones who are doing best in abstract reasoning and situational judgment and have the pass mark in the other test, they get to the second part, to the E-tray. In the E-tray, the highest scores go to the assessment center, and then the highest scores in the assessment center will be on the list of successful candidates. Sorry, good name.
So, let's say step 3 assessment center wouldn't necessarily look at all of the test results.
No, so if you go to the assessment center, your chances are 50-50 that you will be at the end on the years, because we invite 2 times as many people than we look for. Yeah. Yes, please.
How valuable are 3rd languages that are not EU languages, like for example Chinese?
It's a good question. It really depends on the job. So, for example, if you would like to work in external relations, it's important. Whereas, if you will work in I don't know, DG Enterprise or DG Employment and Social Affairs, it's not. So, depending on the job profile, we have also colleagues who don't speak, for example, Mandarin, but they are on a project where they need to, and they offer them language training too. So. Any more questions? Yes, please.
Can you apply as many times as you want?
Yes, and there is no blacklist or anything like that. So basically, we have very high data protection rules behind the whole system. So no one can see it, not even in apps. I mean, where I work, we don't have the access, so we don't know how many times people apply.
Isn't it some kind of, you get a very low score? It cannot
No, no, there isn't. There isn't really, and it's very anonym. You get a number, so no one will identify your name with the number. So be reassured. Okay, so if there are no more questions, thank you so much for making the time for this on a Saturday early morning. It's very, very nice of you. And if you have any questions, please get in touch. I will provide the presentation. You can write to me directly, or you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then we are there for you if there is anything you would like to ask us. Thank you so much.